I can't find my way back to you until you make amends with the demons you've been through. And I can't regret leaving you alone until you find your way back home. Find your way back home. Don't let me drown. Don't let me drown. Don't let me drown. Until you find your way back home. I can't regret leaving you alone until you find your way back home.
Alrighty, hello everybody, and welcome to the sixth week of the EGL. Excuse me, no one heard that. EGL Waveline. This is your host Exernian. I'm joined by Matt Pizza and Clutch. No silent this week. Man wants to win some games for Clown Gaming, so we're stuck with the pizza this week. My guy, like, how long has it been since you've been on EGL, bro?
AGL, maybe 2 weeks, maybe pushing three, but probably 2 weeks.
Yep. With that, we're just gonna jump right in. We're gonna take a look at what went down last week. We had Literal Monkeys 2-0 Collective Experience, Aftermath 2-1 Clown Gaming Jesters. VBU on stream took a 2-0 against Hyperion Sword, and we had FTD Darken take a 2-0 against Project Iconic. So, how everything is looking in the standings now, we are on week number 6 as I lose my voice. Week number 6, out of a 7-week regular season. So every match counts at this point. Even if you 2-0, if you take a win off of a team, it could really make or break your season depending on if you really need those wins for playoffs. And it'll go down to like some crazy tiebreaker, I'm sure. And then people can like squeak right into playoffs. I think Clutch, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think anyone is actually just eliminated from playoffs right now.
Yeah, nobody's officially eliminated yet. At least for EGL. EDL is a different story, but EGL, nobody's eliminated yet.
Yeah, I mean everyone's at least 1-4 has at least one win in this season. So it really does come down to game differential, tiebreakers, and stuff like that, head to heads. So it really, really matters on how week 6 and 7 go for you guys. So we're gonna just take a look at that first game right now. Literal Monkeys versus Collective Experience. I mean, Literal Monkeys right now 5-0 on the season. They're really looking strong, looking to end the season 7-0. Literal Monkeys this week they're going against Aftermath, and the week after that they're going against Project Iconic. So, Matt Pizza, my question for you: Literal Monkeys being 5-0, what do you think about these next 2 weeks going into the end of the season here?
I think Little Monkeys has a lot of room to just try new things if they so choose. Because so far, being 5-0, they can they're pretty much guaranteed to be in the playoffs, right? So they have some wiggle room. They can try out new things, try different strategies, stuff like that. So I think they're in a really strong position where they can either take these games as seriously as they've been, or just chill out, relax, maybe do some crazy things some sketchy comms, stuff like that. Just room to explore, right? So honestly, they're in just a solid position with how well they've been playing in the season, right? 5-0. That's really impressive.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing was we were noting um big star player all season was Jesus Juice 13, that jungle that the jungler. He is just a monster in that role, playing Kane, Hecarim, like literally every champion that makes me want to rip my hair out in solo queue. Um and then but we were seeing, with the addition of Wonderworld, Literal Monkeys has just looked better and better. And silently No Name has been literally making a name for themselves, just being a powerhouse in the mid lane. I think Matt Pizza just dropped something. Overall, it's been really looking good for Literal Monkeys. So, Clutch, my question for you is: looking at this series between Collective Experience, they actually had like some relatively okay games. I wouldn't say they got like completely stomped, but they were obviously Literal Monkey favored.
Yeah, I feel like Literal Monkeys most likely is just, when they're on their game, they're easily the best team in the league. And when you're playing them, you kind of I feel like you have to try something that I mean, it can't be standard, right? Like, you have to pull out something that maybe this team hasn't practiced against, because it's one of those where if you just go toe to toe with them, if you try to team fight against them, you're just going to lose. Like, there's no way that you're going to end up winning. So it looks like they tried to play, something standard, and it didn't really work out for them. I think Collective's still a solid team. I'd say in my eyes, they're a playoff lock. Have they clinched yet? No. But the odds favor them getting into the playoffs, into that lower bracket, most likely. And I think they're a solid team. Now, for Literal Monkeys, they've already clinched playoffs. They haven't clinched first yet. So, obviously you want to get first so you can play the fourth seed. You don't want to be playing the third. But Yeah, LTMK, they just look like the best team in the league. I think if I say that, I'm not going to have people coming after me because it's fairly obvious that they are the best. And Collective, I think, you lost to LTMK. It doesn't matter. Every single team's lost to them. So, like, you lose, but this is a team that is kind of at the top, unstoppable right now. So I really wouldn't take it to heart that they lost against them.
Yeah, overall, I really like just the way that Literal Monkeys coach Grant or puppet drafts for them. Just overall, it's they found that style that works for them. Obviously, being 5-0, and I mean, yeah, like Clutch, like you said, you need to find something different that can kind of take Literal Monkeys by surprise. I don't know if that's gonna have to be a really spicy flex pick, or it's got to be something that someone just pulls out of somewhere, right? That catches one of their star players off guard, and then you know make that lead early and then just run with it. It has to be something different. I think it has to be something drastic. So moving forward, their last 2 weeks, I would like to see Aftermath or Project Iconic try something different against them. As for Collective Experience, their next 2 weeks are, so they're on stream tonight against Project Iconic, and then they finish their season off against FTD Darken. Being 1-4 in the season, these are two really massive series that they need to win. So Matt Pizza, if you're looking at these two series, Project Iconic and then FTD Darken. So for these two series, as gracefully as I can say it, how winnable are these series for them?
Project Organic, it's kind of like, how do I say this? It's gonna be uphill battle for sure, right? With how the season's been going with them and how the games have been going. I think Project Organic has a chance, but they do need to fix a lot of the issues like currently. Um, and then the other team, what was the other team you said? Sorry.
So they go against Project Iconic this week and then FTD Darken next week.
Yeah, FTD Darken. I think honestly, FTD Darken is definitely gonna be one of the more challenging series, just because they have been performing well, and it's FTD, they are beyond all expectations, just showed up and actually performed really well, right? They just blew my expectations. I'm an FTD fan now, right? The jersey's coming in the mail, FTD forever. So I'm really hoping. As a side note, not saying, not gonna go into this too much, but I hope FTD win the series. I'm gonna say not the series, the playoffs. I'm gonna say it. I'm putting in my vote right here, right now.
I think they're gonna coin that term, FTD forever. Well, with that, we're not even talking about FTD, man. He's not even in the series. So we're looking at that next series, Aftermath Esports versus Clown Gaming Jester. So Aftermath is the only other team besides Literal Monkeys to have clinched playoffs. So they're currently 4-1 in the season. Clown Gaming obviously being 1-4. I think it was really big for them to even take a win off of Aftermath. I think Clown Gaming started off relatively strong to this season. Obviously, lost that first week, won their second week against Collective, but then after that, they've been on a kind of a losing streak this entire season since. So, Clown Gaming Jesters, obviously, I feel like this was a very big uphill battle for them. I do remember us, not really believing. It was all of us kind of being like, "Sorry, Silent. We kind of have to vote against you, bro." But I'm really surprised almost that they took a game off of Aftermath. I think it still shows that they haven't given up on that season yet. They're really trying to make it into the playoffs. Even if you squeak into the losers bracket, playoffs is playoffs, right? You can make that losers bracket miracle run. As for Aftermath, it's just been a strong showing all around. So, Clutch, my question for you, looking at these two teams, Aftermath obviously clinched playoffs. CG Jesters has not clinched playoffs. This week they go against VBU Plutonium, and next week they go against Hyperion Sword. So, looking at these next two series, if they win or if they lose, how do you see them kind of playing out the rest of it?
Yeah, so Clown Gaming, if you read the little short article I ended up doing today, I talked about, the pretenders and contenders, well, yada, 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 you can go read that. But at the end, I actually predicted what the records would look like and who would make the playoffs at the end of the day. I actually put Clown Gaming would make it a sixth. They would go 2-5 and they would get sixth. Now, their win, I think, is going to come against Hyperion in week 7 because honestly, that's going to be the matchup for the playoffs. Iconic would have to beat Collective. I don't think they beat LTMK. Just going to be honest. Like, I don't think they beat them. So Iconic have to kind of win this week if they want to have a chance at making it. But week 7, Clown Gaming versus Hyperion, that is the matchup for the playoffs in my eyes. Like, whoever wins that is going to get 6th. I think that's going to be the 6th place team. So for Clown Gaming this week, they've got VBU. It's going to be a real rough matchup. VBU's look, I'd say they've looked solid this split. They're a lot like FTD in my eyes, where inconsistency kind of comes in. You know, one day they look like they could be at the top of the league. The other day they look like they could be at the bottom. So it depends which VBU shows up. I think Clown Gaming is actually consistent in the fact that they play where they're like they should be playing. Like, I feel like this team is like, you know, kind of that like dark horse, like 6th, 5th place team. And it's going to be a good matchup tonight against VBU. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Against Aftermath, them taking a game is absolutely huge because confidence comes in. I mean, if we can take a game off Aftermath, why can't we beat VBU, right? Like, I mean, VBU's worse than Aftermath in the standings. So, like, theoretically, they should be able to beat them. So I think Clown Gaming, they've got a good shot at playoffs, but again, you're gonna you also need help from the other teams losing. You can't just win and hope you're in. You also need other teams to kind of lose. So definitely gonna be paying attention to that. But I'm gonna have Clown Gaming in at 6th. I think they're gonna end up sneaking in at the last second.
Yeah, I mean, you do need the stars to align, like you said, for Clown Gaming. But regardless, I think, like you were saying, Clown Gaming taking that game off of Aftermath was huge. I think even just looking, um, what happened in the games. I think that Clown Gaming, we've been sleeping on them for quite a while, but I think it's one of those cases where, they're taking a game off of teams, but they don't really cross that finish line, right? If you don't snowball your leads, push what you need to, push and get all the gold that you get, then, you're not going to end the game. As Riot would do. I played a ranked game. Did you know that the other week? My team had an 8k gold lead, and then it all dissipated within 3 minutes because Riot Games. So I think for Clown Gaming, you really need to. I think this is just for any team in EGL. Find a way to get a lead early and then just push it. I think that's what we saw in the next series we're going to talk about. So VBU and Hyperion, where VBU literally had like I don't even know what happened in their drafts anymore, but they had something that just snowballed early, and then I think they just went through that. So, Matt Pizza, if you're looking at VBU and Hyperion Sword, was this like, I think this was the expected outcome, VBU taking that 2-0 over Hyperion. But do you think it was a very convincing 2-0, or was it just like, oh yeah, they just kind of like happened to win? It wasn't like VBU playing really well. It was just Hyperion seemed to play worse.
I think like looking at the match history, right? Like the ADC for VBU, IQ of a Coconut, he popped off both games, right? Like he was 15-6 on Gen game 1, and he was 14-12 on game 2. So I want to say that I do want to attribute a good amount of it to VBU playing really well. They were able to play around their carry, in which case it's going to be the ADC. Not to say that Merciful Crow didn't put in any work. Um, in game 2, she was playing Seraphine and she had a lot of assists. Like, I want to say that VBU did like play really well these games and like played to what they drafted, right? They played together and played to the comp that they did. Whereas Hyperion, like, sure, like in game 2, their comp is just, to me, is interesting because that's a Lissandra top, and that's just, or Lissandra top. So it's just kind of like, it's kind of interesting what they did. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for it. I'm all for like interesting picks, like Karma Top. I invented that, by the way.
No, you
But
didn't, man.
no, shh, listen,
Pizza.
That
I
pizza.
invented it anyway. Like interesting picks, but didn't let them cross the right. So I think I want to say Hyperion is trying things. They're trying to figure out what they can do, trying to throw curveballs at other teams, trying to figure out what they can do to like win, right? But unfortunately, it like did end up backfiring on them, and it did give VB the win.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying that, especially that second game for Hyperion Sword. I think we were going for Freljord diff or something. Right? I felt like there were so many moving pieces, but there were too many that just didn't click together. If you're looking at
Mhm.
VBU's draft, they B1 that Hecarim, very strong pick overall. You know, I'm not saying Hecarim is like really easy to play. I'm not trying to offend the Hecarim mains out there, but Hecarim, you press E and you press R, and then oh yeah, you win. But Hyperion Sword, um, they pull out a whole bunch of different things. You have Ashe, Lissandra, Xerath, and then Nunu and Alistar. So you're trying to play like poke at the same time with Xerath, but then you want to go in because you have Lissandra and Nunu, but then you have Ashe who's trying to kite, and you have a lot of different pieces, and I think that Hyperion Sword was really lacking that kind of unity, especially in that second game. So I think that was the game we were talking about where BB just got a little bit ahead, and then the game was just out of Hyperion's hands very very quickly. So Clutch, if you're talking about that first game for them, where it was just really really close at the beginning, and then you and I, when we were casting, it was up until the third Drake. I think the game was quite close. They were going back and forth. I really liked the proactive plays that Hyperion was trying at the beginning, but I think overall Inferno SK, especially on that Victor hit, was so close to 1v5ing a whole bunch of fights. But then it became like, oh yeah, Corky's online, and then right, game ended.
Yeah. I think at least in game one, I think Inferno SK, like, I mean, I've been saying it the whole season. This guy is their player to play around. He's an exceptional mid laner. I honestly think he's one of the best in the league, even though he's on maybe not a talented team. But they started to show some life, and with bringing in Roulette, who I think is also a very good supportive piece for Inferno SK, it takes a lot of the weight off of his shoulders. I mean, this team is definitely stronger now. We saw against VBU, even though they did lose game one, it was super close. Like Inferno SK and Roulette almost ended up 2v8ing the game and winning for them. And I was like, if Hyperion win the series, it's huge. But game two, I mean, it just all fell apart. Game two, VBU decided to show why they are a top 4 team in the league, I'd say. And they kind of just ran them over. So if I'm Hyperion, again, you need to play towards Inferno SK. I've been saying this entire season. You need to give him everything he can to succeed. And now that you have a supportive jungler piece to help out Inferno SK, take off some of that carry load, I think it'll be easier for Inferno SK to really come online because now they have the dual threat of Roulette and Inferno SK. It's not just Inferno SK. He's got a supporting piece to help him carry. So I think Hyperion Sword, they've definitely got good things going on. But my only problem is I feel like it's a little bit too late in the season. Like it's week 6, they only have 2 games left, and they're 1-4 at the bottom. So like, I feel like it might be too late for them, and they're just gonna end up missing as they play FTD and Clown Gaming, which again they could just be Clown Gaming and make it, but FTD is gonna be a tough match for them. They're like VBU, where again if FTD Darkin shows up to play, I mean, they're just going to get ran over. So we'll have to see. But I think Hyperion Sword, they're starting to go in the right direction. But I'm just worried it's a little bit too late, and they're going to miss.
Yeah, we're really looking to, especially this current week against FTD, where what can they pull out, what can change. It just how do we keep our heads screwed on straight so that we can try and just do the best that we can with the last 2 weeks that we have left. But we're gonna look at that last series of last week. We had FTD Darken 2-0 Project Iconic. So FTD is now 3-2, putting them right underneath Literal Monkeys and Aftermath. So they're close to clinching playoffs, but they're not. So I can't say too much. And Project Iconic being the third team that is 1-4 in the season. So obviously taking this 2-0 against them is very, very bad for the rest of their season. Project Iconic goes against Collective today, and then they go against FTD Darken. No, I can't read. They're going against Literal Monkeys in week 7. I'm like looking at FTDs at the same time. But Project Iconic is going against Literal Monkeys in week 7, and then this week they go against Collective Experience. So Clutch, if you're looking at the next 2 finishing weeks for them, say they are able to win against Collective today, but then they lose against Literal Monkeys. This is just by like nature of standings and how close they are to Collective. So maybe they're able to squeak that 1 win in, and then they would finish 2-5.
Yeah. So if they end up winning this week against Collective, they then tie Collective. Now, obviously, one series isn't like you need other dominoes to fall. Basically, at this point, yes, it's sort of in Iconic's hands. They could technically just win 2 weeks in a row and they probably make it. Yes, but we're assuming they're not going to beat LTMK, and that's already a loss. And then if you beat Collective, you need other things to happen. You can't just make it in with 2 wins. It's almost going to be impossible. The good news for them is that if they win this week, they're going to have the tiebreaker over Collective. So they would actually have the head-to-head. So if it does come down only to a 2-way tiebreaker, they would end up making it. And another thing to point out, Clown Gaming also has the head-to-head against Collective since they beat them. So Collective don't really want to get into a tiebreaker because if they do, especially against Iconic and Clown Gaming, it's most likely not going to go in their way. So Collective is just looking to win and avoid the whole scenario. They don't even want to be near that because if they do, yes, there's a chance they make it out. But again, for Iconic, for Clown Gaming, for Hyperion, it's not just only you winning. You need the other teams to lose. You need all these dominoes to start falling, and you need help from other teams. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see if Project Iconic is going to make it. I think I had them number 7 or 8. I had them missing, but you never know. You never know, and that's what that's EGL in the nutshell. You never know who's going to win. I mean, Clown Gaming took a game off Aftermath, and I don't think anyone saw that coming. So you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and they had one game, like the Clown Gaming Aftermath series. Clown Gaming had one game that was actually really, really close. But regardless, back to this series, FTD and Project Iconic. I think that Project Iconic has a few interesting choices in a lot of their drafts that don't always make sense to me. I'm not gonna say I'm like really good at drafting or anything, but I feel like some of it is just what makes sense. Okay, if anyone's in the Twitch chat, I dropped how many recon points I have. But even then, points don't really matter. What really matters is that if you're looking at FTD, in that first game, they first picked that Jinx. Obviously, Jinx still pretty strong in the meta. Safe pick, you know, hard to punish. Especially even if you punish her. Even, you know, and she'll still pop off at mid to late game fights. And then I like what Project Iconic did with their first pick here. They answered with Caitlyn and then Rakan, which makes no sense to me. If I were the Rakan player here, I'd be like, no, no, no. This is not what I want. Sure, Morgana is banned. Just pick Lux or something, dude. Regardless, I think the rest of Project Iconic's draft made some sense, but at the same time, not a lot of sense. I think that overall, FTD just overall had the very consistent drafts and playstyle that they wanted to achieve for both the games, which I can see why they were able to win. But regardless, these are actually 2 very close games. I think that Project Iconic is a lot stronger. Like, I think just saying 2-0 FTD does not tell the whole story. I think Project Iconic, especially, we were talking about Shy Winter a lot, that EDC played Ziggs that second game. I like that Lucian flex to the mid lane. Well, technically wasn't a flex because they R5'd it. But, overall, I do like the picks that Project Iconic is bringing out. I think that Project Iconic, especially today when we're seeing them on stream against Collective, I would really like to see them really hone in on one playstyle that works for them. I think they tried 2 different things and then they're really, really close with both of them actually. So overall, I think I just think that Project Iconic is a team that's a lot stronger than they look on paper. So Matt Pizza, I think this is your time to shine to talk about FTD and their last 2 weeks. So FTD, this week they're going against Hyperion Sword, and then next week they go against Collective Experience. So Matt Pizza, it's your time to shine, man.
I mean, all right. Well, you know, we'll start off with last game, or last series, I should say. So game one, it was definitely really close, right? Like looking at the match history, like no one on either teams was like super ahead, right? It was a really close game, and even the kills, right? It's 23 to 24, and like it was such a close game that honestly it probably ended up coming down to like one call that shifted the tides, right? And like from then, what was it? FTD were able to take the reins and just end the game. Game two has a little bit of a different story, right? If you look at game two, both ADCs are really fed, right? So props to Hello 301 though for getting 432 CS in almost a 50-minute game. Like that's such a long game to have played, and it was definitely such a close game. But at the end of the day, FTD did manage to 2-0 Project Iconic, and I do think it is kind of like what you said, Exonian, how draft comes into play. Because game one, Project Iconic drafted a full go in team comp. They had Nocturne, they had Rakan, whereas FTD had they they kind of had like a disengaged comp with Vigar of Gragas and Nami, but they also had a Jinx both games that was honestly the core, right? They just kept doing what they know how to do, right? They kept picking the Jinx, built a comp around the Jinx, and played to their win condition, right? Get the Jinx ahead, make sure that she can carry and keep her alive. And it's just such a simple recipe that just works, right? Whereas Project Iconic, they did something a little bit more drastic game two, right? Like they had the Trundle Shen, but then they also had Ziggs who wants to like poke. Then they have Janna who wants to like kind of disengage, like maybe get picks as well, but um, it was just kind of like it was off the right. Project kind of they were trying to do a bunch of different things, like you said, and it just didn't work out. Whereas FC Darkened, right? They just went with the same standard. We go with the Jinx, right? We get some engage with it, right? We have the Lilia, we got the Leona, and then the Malzahar pick was kind of interesting, but it ended up working. So you can't dog on that too much. But overall, like FGD, they are a team that just like showed up and like kind of like Clutch said, right? How like one day they could be really good, one day they could be really bad. It's just all about the team's morale, right? And since I'm here back again, I know they won't disappoint me this week since their morale is going to be through
You're
the roof.
providing them the morale, Matt Pizza. That's what it is.
Exactly. The 1 week they lost, it was probably because I was
Yeah, Matt Pizza wasn't there, and then yeah,
the
that's
stars
why we
didn't
lost.
align. Yeah,
No Matt Pizza, no win.
exactly.
With that, we're gonna look into our predictions for this week. We have, this is my hot take of the week. Okay, I'm gonna put it that way. I think both you and Clutch Matt Pizza, you both said 2-1 Literal Monkeys. I said 2-1 Aftermath Esports. I think that overall, this is the one series I think that really shows who's actually going to be at the top. I think this is a playoff matchup that we're going to probably see again, where these two teams are really going to go at it. I think overall, these are the two titans of the league. Obviously, Literal Monkeys undefeated. Aftermath dropping one series, but overall having a really strong showing in all the other ones. So I think I don't really have much to say other than that. This is my hot take of the week. I just feel like something's gonna swing, something will happen. I can't say what. I swear I do not have the script. It's only for dragons. I have the script, but not for team games. Um, but yeah, I do think this is gonna be that one series where something swings, something happens, and Aftermath takes a 2-1. But Clutch and Matt Pizza, you both said 2-1 for Literal Monkeys. Clutch, do you think it's just gonna be Literal Monkeys? They're just better.
So I think that the reason why I said 2-1 is because every single time I've said 2-0 Little Monkeys, and obviously it's happened. But this week, you know what? I think if I'm ever gonna say 2-1, it's gonna be against Aftermath because I feel like if anyone's going to contest Literal Monkeys in this league, it's going to be Aftermath. And if Aftermath loses this week and can't beat them, I don't know who's going to beat them, to be honest. So that's kind of why I have them winning a game. I still think Literal Monkeys is the best team in the league. I don't. I only think like Aftermath is really the only team as of right now that could potentially, take a series off of them. But still, I still think it's favored to Literal Monkeys. I just think they're too stacked. Like their team is like star studded across the board. They have been playing very well. They've had the same roster also for most of the season, besides like their ADC situation. So they've all been playing with each other for a very long time, which helps a lot. I don't know. I feel like this team just overall very solid team. Their coach Grant is probably the best coach in the league. I'm just going to say it straight up. Like this guy's absolutely cracked with his drafts, and I feel like he just sets up his team for success. He puts them in a spot where they go play the game. They can play their picks, their unique picks, and they succeed on them. So I think they've got a really good dynamic. And for the side of Aftermath, again, they've looked like a solid team, but they've also been changing around the roster a bit and playing different positions. So we'll see how it goes this week. I do think Aftermath will finally take a game off LTMK and stop the undefeated T1 season, basically. I think they'll take a game, but are they going to beat them? I think that's a little bit of a stretch. I think LTMK is just on fire right now. Literally, they are LTMK fire. And I just think nobody can beat them.
Yeah, I mean, Literal Monkeys being that team that just had showed us over and over again that they're like, yeah, like you said, I think you're just on the dot with Grant knows what to give them, how to give them the picks that they want, and they just do what they're doing best, and they can all do it as a 5-man unit, which is why I think they're so successful. So Matt Pizza, you said 2-1 Literal Monkeys as well. Are you on that same page? Why do you think they're going to drop a game, actually, to Aftermath?
Well, honestly, it's just because of the playstyles both team have. Both teams have like the going in 5v5 team comp playstyle, right? Like Aftermath, they like to have the wombo combos. Like I think last series, the second or third game, something around there, they had Yasuo, Diana, and Malphite. We're just going in. Whereas LTMK, right? They like to do something similar as well. They'll have the Hecarim, they have the Ornn, like they have pretty much identical team fights where it really comes down to individual micromanagement, right? So it's going to be a close game. I think, well, I shouldn't say it's going to be. I think it's going to be a close game to a certain point, and then it's going to swing one way or another. And I think personally that it's going to swing LTMK more often than Aftermath, which is the reason why I have the one alongside the reasons that Clutch.
Yeah, I really like if you guys have not checked it out yet in the community content channel, Wingman does some really crazy math and just shows us a whole bunch of cool numbers just based on how many like times people have been winning in a row, their goal differences and all that kind of stuff. And he has an algorithm that predicts the win probabilities for each series. And looking at Aftermath and Literal Monkeys, he mentioned that Aftermath has a 40% chance to win at least one game in the series. So, by the way, we didn't see this until now, and the way that we even predicted it, there's at least one game going to Aftermath. So I think that's what we're going to be looking out for, especially going into this series. Big series, I think. I kind of wish this was also the stream series, but I kind of say that about every series. I wish we could just watch them all. But going into that next series, we have CG Jesters versus VBU Plutonium. So, Matt Pizza, you're at the top. You're a VBU fanboy.
Oh yeah. The reason I say that VBU is gonna 2-1 Clown Gaming is just like VBU, they have been looking pretty decent, right? Taking the win from Hyperion last series, and IQ of Coconut really like showing that he's one of the better ADCs in the league, right? Performing in both games. So I think if VBU is able to like repeat what success they had in week's series into this week's, right? Just playing around the ADC, make like drafting around the ADC, right? Easy to execute comps, stuff like that. Then I see VBU coming on top. Now that's not to like discredit CG for all the work they've done. They are still a decent team, and I do think that one time VBU is gonna slightly mess up one team fight, and just it'll turn one of the games will just go to the side of CG. So not gonna say a quick 2-0, but it's gonna be a 2-1. But it's definitely gonna be VBU favored in my opinion.
So, Clutch, you also said a 2-1 for VBU. How hard do you think that Cloud Gaming is really going to fight for all three of these games that you project?
Yeah, Clown Gaming are basically they're on the ropes. Like they got to start winning. You can't make the playoffs by not winning. That's not possible. Like you literally have to win. And Clown Gaming right now, they're eyeing being tied for sixth. And at 1-4, I mean, obviously you don't want to be in that situation where your season just relies on a tiebreaker because nobody wants to be in that situation. So Clown Gaming they're going to try to pull out everything to beat VBU, I feel like, in this series, because this is a winnable series for Clown Gaming. And we'll have to see what Clown Gaming has in store. I think their top laner, CH Gaming, is definitely their best player. That is their superstar carry player. We saw he dropped the Penta on Darius last week. Now Darius is probably getting banned. But he dropped the Penta on Darius. This guy's a really, really good top laner. And the side of Clown Gaming definitely need to play towards this guy. And for the side of VBU, I think VBU is that, I mean, they're just a team fighting team. They're very good at team fighting. They don't do too much early on. This team kind of likes to play it slow. They play around their jungler who makes a lot of the plays, and they kind of snowball through that. So we'll see. I think VBU, I think they should take this series 2-1. I feel like overall they're the better team. But Clown Gaming, I think with one game, they're going to take it with their top laner. I think he'll be able to pull out something spicy and absolutely 1v9 the game.
Yeah, I think what you're just saying is pretty much on that same page of what I'm about to say as well, where VBU, I think, has really started to develop a playstyle towards, as a 5-man unit, that whole team, especially when we saw them play last week. Honestly, I said it was a 2-0 for VBU. I honestly just think that going into this week, VBU will have a clear idea of how they want to play, what they want to do, and I think that's just gonna make the world of a difference. Where Clown Gaming, I think, has to be trying something super different. They're like, okay, this is either gonna like work really well or not work at all. Whereas VBU is like, yeah, guys, we know what we're gonna do. We know what we want to play and stuff like that. I really like the team dynamic that they have overall. Especially just everything that they've played before. Like you were saying though, Clutch, I think the one lane where things can really go wrong is that top lane. CH Gaming, especially on that Darius, we saw him play, especially dropping a Penta in that last week. Dude is a force to be reckoned with, right? So I think Squig has to either say like, okay guys, give me tank duty, or put me on the Ornn guys, right? But overall, I think that I would really like to see the matchup between Silent or Kills, between him and Merciful Crow. I think overall how this mid lane matchup goes is, I think, can be the decider between this series. I think that even though I wrote 2-0 for VBU, it's going to be a very hard fought 2-0. It's not just going to be they just rolled over and died. Like, no. I think that VBU is really going to fight tooth and nail, and it's just going to be, at the end of the day, they pull the win. So, overall, I think that's my final thoughts on this series. Any final thoughts before we move on? Silence is a no. Okay. Now we're going to look at Hyperion Sword versus FTD Darken. So, Matt Pizza, as the FTD fanboy, I will let you go first.
I mean, so far FTD, they've been like developing how they want to play. Like we've seen like the picks that they have. Like they've just been when they are consistent, they are a good team. But when it's a bad day and they're off, then it's just kind of like it's kind of sketchy. I said 2-0 because I'm hyping them up. They got the Mad Pizza boost. They're feeling themselves. All right. And one of the actual reasons why I think it's gonna be a 2-0 for FTD is because Hyperion Sword, they still haven't found what makes them Hyperion Sword, if that makes sense, right? They haven't found a playstyle that's working for them. They're like they're finding wins, but it's not coming out to like series, right? Like sure, they won a series in like week 4 against Project Iconic, but other than that, they haven't been able to pick up many wins. So they just need to find something that works for them. And when they do, I do think they'll be a strong team. But so far, as it's getting later and later into the split, it's kind of getting hard. It's kind of getting to the point where it's like, is it? Do we still have time to turn the season? Right. So I'm my vote 2-0 FTD. Go FTD.
Go FTD. Okay, Matt Pizza. Clutch, you also said 2-0 for FTD.
Yeah, FTD is a lot like VBU in the fact that I think both these teams are pretty good. It just depends which team's going to show up on the night. Are you going to get like the actual FTD or VBU team, or are you going to get like the inconsistent team that's just going to run it down? Is basically how it goes. Now, one thing to point out is like FTD, they beat Aftermath. Their Aftermath's only loss at this point. Like Aftermath did end up losing to FTD Darken 4-1. So, but at the same time, um, FTD lost to VBU, so it's like, where is FTD? Where I consider them top 4. I think they have ceiling to contest for the second place spot. They beat Aftermath, so they should be a good team. But they lost to VBU when VBU was, what were they? They were like 1-2. Yeah, they were 1-2. So it's like, where really is FTD? Now, I think FTD is better than Hyperion. I think FTD, even on an inconsistent night, should be able to still take down Hyperion. And we'll have to see, though. I think Hyperion this week is really going to lay it all on the line, especially with their playoff hopes and dreams. Could potentially maybe be over after this week. I don't think so, but they'd be put in a really, really hard spot. And FTD, all they've got to do is win, and they're in the playoffs. If they win this week, they are clinched for the playoffs. Same with VBU. So I think FTD is really going to come out this week, make a statement, and clinch the playoffs.
Yeah, I have to agree with everything that you said, Clutch, as well. Just overall, FTD, I think they're just trying to find that consistency overall. But I won't say too much. We're going to move on to that last and streamed match of the week. We have Project Iconic taking Collective Experience. So, Matt Pizza, this time you're at the bottom. You said 2-1 for a Collective instead of a 2-0.
I mean, I think it's gonna be a 2-1 because both teams are good in their respective ways, right? I'm saying 2-1 because I'm betting on the caster curse, where no series ever goes to a 2-0 when we're right. If something happens, it always goes to 3 games. We'd like it to be 2 games, but always goes into 3-game banger series. So betting on the caster's curse to pull me ahead in prediction.
You're just saying it's going to be caster curse?
I mean, I can make the same thing as you guys, right? Like, it's just kind of like I had to do something different. So just like I'm semi hot take. I couldn't fully vote for Project Iconic just because they haven't shown me anything special, anything interesting, right? Like, yes, they're a team. They're doing well. They're doing okay. But nothing really stands out, right? And same with Collective Experience. So I'm just looking at the standings, looking at like how they've been playing, how they have played, and I'm just kind of like, I think it is Collective favored, but I will give Project Iconic a game just because maybe something happens, maybe we'll see 3 games. It's a huge like maybe for this one. Yeah,
Huge maybe. I don't know. That
huge
pizza
maybe.
every single week is just like, yeah, I don't know, man. But Clutchy,
Yeah.
you said 2-0 for Collective Experience. I think looking at these next 2 weeks, right? Project Iconic obviously going against Collective this week, and then next week they're finishing off against Literal Monkeys. So how important do you think is the series actually for Project Iconic? And you gave Collective the 2-0. Does that crush their playoff dreams or what?
Yeah, so Project Iconic basically has to win this week. I think if they don't win this week, they're not in the playoffs because week 7, they're going to be up against LTMK. Now, LTMK could decide, hey, we're just going to throw, but they would get in a lot of trouble. So I don't think LTMK is going to throw the series because that would not look good and they'd get in big trouble. So I think that if Project Iconic doesn't win this week against Collective Experience, I'm pretty sure their season's over. Like, they're going to most likely lose the LTMK Fire, and that would put them at 1 win. And it would literally be impossible for them to make the playoffs because Clown Gaming and Hyperion play each other, and one of them has to have 2 wins. So it would literally be impossible. So I think Project Iconic, the stream match, by the way, they need to come in this week, and they need to leave it all on the line. Like, I need to see, like, something super spicy. I need to see these players really step it up and play the best game they've ever played in EGL, because if they don't leave it all on the line and they lose, you can pretty much write them off as missing the playoffs. Now for Collective, reason why I said 2-0, even though Collective has been, they're kind of they're on a 2-game losing streak. They ended up losing against Aftermath and LTMK. Yeah, it's Aftermath and LTMK who are the two best teams in the league. Collective took a game off them, so I think this week is going to be that rebound week where they take down Iconic, and then they end this season against FTD Darken, which is going to be a great matchup that is going to be streamed next week. So I think Collective's got this 2-0. They've just looked like the better team the entire season, and we'll have to see. Iconic's got to, they got to get something going. Otherwise, their playoff dreams are basically going to be gone if they don't win this week.
Yeah, I think Collective Experience, if they win this series, that will put them 3-3 in record, and then next week they'll go against FTD Darken. So I think we're really looking towards next week in terms of playoff seeding for Collective Experience and just really how it goes. But like you said, Clutch, Project Iconic really has to pull something out, and hopefully we will see it on a stream tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully you guys can tune in, watch the VOD, come and say hi. We'll have Clutch, as always. He's stuck in stream jail with me forever. And yeah, and we'll have Matt Pizza tonight as the color caster.
Yep.
Yep, so hopefully we will see you guys in about 10 minutes here for the stream match Project Iconic for Collective Experience. Good luck in all your guys' games tonight, and hopefully we'll see you guys on stream.